All right, everybody, welcome back. Good afternoon. We've got more right guards to look at, and now we're going to ease down into that next tier. Earlier, we did stars, and then we did high-end starters. Now we're kind of in that mid-level starter. You could even argue low-level starter. You wouldn't have super high expectations for these guys. These guys would be good if you sign a really, or acquire some way, somehow, a really awesome center and left guard, and then you just felt like you didn't need to go crazy at right guard. You just needed somebody who you knew was competent. Then this might be it. Like maybe you just have no faith in Bradford, no faith in Lomia. You're moving Haynes to a different position. These guys would make some sense, but they need to be kind of the weak spot. They can't be one of your strong spots. They're not good enough for that. If that makes sense. You can survive with having less than stellar players at every offensive line position, but you have to consider what you're willing to accept. If you're willing to accept too much, you end up with a bad offensive line. So, let's go through some options here. These are four guys that I think would fit the bill. First guy is James Daniels. I know they list him as a center. He hasn't played center in a couple years now, really. Going to turn 28 right about the time the season starts, so he's in his prime. Finished up a year on the Steelers where he only played 4 games, but he did play most of the season or all of the season in the previous 3 years. So the injury, it's not the first time he's missed most of a season, but it's not like he's never been able to finish out a year. So not too worried about that. He's been relatively good so far in his career. He's a former second-round pick, so pretty credible prospect overall. PFF loved him last year. They gave him an incredibly high mark, 92.9. It was only 200 snaps, though, and it was all at right guard, so that's nice. We like that, but it's not a big sample size. It's not a tiny one either. The year before, when he actually played basically the whole season, it was more, I mean, it was still good, right? 62.1. I can live with that for sure. That's a guy who deserves to start in this league, but it's not great. And it's all at right guard, so at least he is a genuine right guard in this league, but not quite as exciting with this grade, right? If he had kept this up in 2024, we might really have something here. James Daniels, 2 years, 15.5 million is the projection, so that's 7.8 a year. Um, it's a little bit of a gamble because he only played 4 games last year, but this one feels about right. I wouldn't mind doing this. I think this would be okay. And I think you'd probably get your money's worth. It would probably be like a 1-and-1 where very little of the second year money's guaranteed. So you'd probably be able to not have him make most of that money. It would probably boil down to like a 1 year, $8 million deal or $9 million deal with a few million of that money going into 2026 instead. One of those, kind of like the Noah Fant deal. And if he plays really well, then you can keep him. Brandon Scherff. Brandon Scherff, been around this league for a hot minute now. Former top 5 overall pick. Just turned 33, so age is a big concern with him for sure. He's playing a position where it doesn't necessarily have to be a big deal, and he hasn't missed a game in 3 years. He signed that deal with Jacksonville, and he's been Iron Man ever since. He doesn't miss time, but he also stopped making the Pro Bowl. He was a 5-time Pro Bowler with Washington, and he hasn't made it once since Jacksonville, so he is in a different phase of his career, but he's still solid and reliable. PFF gave him a 64.7 last year. Decent, workable, worthy of starting in the NFL, but not exciting. Your right guard, by the way. Year before that was a little bit better, 67.3. That's pretty good. That's something you can work with. 26th out of 136 guards in 2023. Okay. All at right guard. So you know what you're getting at this point. He's not a Pro Bowler or a Pro Bowl caliber player anymore. He's pretty good. And the age makes it entirely possible he's going to slip again. So buyer beware. But as of right now, for the last few years, he's kind of held steady as a solid starting right guard in this league. Spotrac goes 1 year, 6.7 million. Too old to get multi-year money. I guess it would be okay, but I'm a little bit cautious here. If I'm going to go for something like this, I'd like a little bit more of a discount. Give me 1 year, 5.5 million. But it's not a bad idea, especially if you feel like you have a long-term option that isn't quite ready yet at right guard, somebody like a Bradford. Like, I think that would be understandable. So, Brandon Scherff, he's it would work. I don't think it would be as bad as like the Lake and Tomlinson signing. Like, to me, this would be a lot more viable and something you could buy into. But again, it's one of those things where it just feels like things are going to go wrong, right? You have that feeling in the back of your head that he's just about to hit the wall. All right, moving along here. Matt Pryor, next guy up. Another veteran. He turned 30 in December. He's not that old yet. 6th-round pick back in 2018. Spent a couple years on Philly. Spent some time on Indianapolis. Spent some time on San Francisco. Went to Chicago last year and actually started a career-high 15 games. So it's not exactly a high pedigree career, right? You're not looking at this and going, oh, this guy's Mr. Reliable. He didn't start a game in 2023 with the Niners. So it's not like he got some Brandon Scherff-like track record. But, I mean, the most recent year is the most important one when we're trying to evaluate this, right? So he was graded well, almost a 70, top 30 almost among guards. It's 1,000 snaps. It's a meaningful amount of snaps. He did allow a lot of sacks, which for a right guard is not what you want to see because that's a position where you really shouldn't be giving up a ton. It was only 24 pressures is what I'm going to say about that. 24 pressures is not unreasonable for a right guard. Caleb Williams just got sacked a lot. He's a rookie. So I know people are going to look at the 7 sacks allowed and freak out. I don't think it's as bad as the way people are going to convey it because he's protecting Caleb. So he played other positions on the offensive line, by the way, as you can see, but he's mostly a right guard at this point. Previous year, by the way, he was graded really poorly, and he mostly played at tackle. So that's probably your issue. When this was with the Niners, I think. Yeah, 2023. No, I'm sorry, 2022, which was when he was on the Colts. And you can see they moved him around a bunch, and sure enough, he played very poorly. So there's probably a correlation there. Don't play him at tackle. And let him play it. Just let him play at right guard. That's where he's had success. Spotrac says 1 year, 5.2 million dollars. I mean, it's okay. That's probably about the right price point for what he is, given what he did in 2024. He's a good player. He deserves to make starter money. He deserves to be given a starter job. You don't expect the world of him, but if you set up good stuff around him, if Abe Lucas plays well on the right side, and you give him a good center, you give him some quality play on the left side, I don't think he's going to let you down. Just don't ask him to be the linchpin. Don't ask him to be your best interior lineman. Ask him to be your worst. And you'll be happy with what you get. So, okay. I'm okay with it. I'm not crazy about it. But I'm not going to be crazy about anything at this level. If I was, they'd be much higher up. One last guy for this group, it's Will Hernandez. Will Hernandez, 2nd-round pick of the Giants. Never really worked out in New York. He did play a lot, but I don't think they were that happy with him. Went to Arizona these last 3 years. Has played quite a bit again. He's been... the last few years of his career, he moved to right guard. He started out on the left side. I think that did help him. But this last year, it was a big disappointment. He only played 5 games, and then he tapped out for the year. So we didn't even get a real contract year push from him. So you are going to get to save money on him. And, you know, he's going to turn 30 right about the time the season starts. So you are going to get him at a relatively decent price, but I don't think you're going to get much more than what you pay for. PFF did think he was off to a really good start in 2024, 69.3. That's above his typical standard. He was playing really good football at right guard. But we will never know what would have happened if he had played out the whole season. Year before that, he did play basically the whole season at right guard, and he played well, 66.2. So he belongs as a starter in the league. You just have to put him in the right situations. As a right guard, he gets the job done fairly well. You're not going to be blown away by him, but you are going to get a solid working class type of guard production from him. And that's probably about what you're going to have to pay him. So what right do you really have to expect much more than that? Spotrac, 2 years, 8.6 million. That's 4.3 million a year. Okay. I'm not a huge Will Hernandez guy, but it's a multi-year deal. You can shove a lot of that money into year 2 and make low guarantees on it. I don't think there's going to be a huge bidding war for Will Hernandez, so I don't think he's going to find a much better deal out there. So I'd be okay with that. Again, it depends on what you do at the other positions. If you're cheaping out at every position, you have a problem. But if you go crazy, or even just at least go for the gold at left guard and center, something like a Will Hernandez at right guard is going to work a lot better. Okay, so those are your 4 guys that I would qualify as good, workable starters. But buyer beware. Understand that if you expect star level play out of these guys, or even high level play, you're probably not getting it. And you're going to have a not very good offensive line because you're putting your expectations in the wrong places. All right, let me know what you think of this group. We're going to have one more video later today where I go through some depth options at right guard, which that could end up being important. Personally, I think the Seahawks, between the guys they already have, should have viable depth, but we'll talk about it. See you guys soon. Go Hawks.